We often think of land ownership and use in America as fairly static, but what if I told you there's a quiet revolution happening right under our feet?
Mm.
We're diving into the booming, sometimes surprising world of hunting leases, a concept that's subtly reshaping how land is used, accessed, and valued across the country.
It's truly fascinating because this isn't just some marginal activity, it's a rapidly expanding trend. It's changing the economics of land ownership for, well, countless individuals and businesses.
Right.
Our mission today is to understand why this phenomenon is not just surviving, but truly thriving, and what its growth means for both landowners and hunters.
And we've got some great material to work with.
Yeah, we've taken a deep dive into an insightful article from Basecamp Leasing called The Future of Hunting Leases in America to really get to the heart of these dynamics.
Okay, so hunting leases. We often think of this as maybe a modern trend, but how far back does this idea actually go? Has it always been this widespread?
That's a great question because it actually has pretty deep roots. Hunting leases first emerged way back in the early 1900s.
Oh, really? The early 1900s?
Yeah, primarily down in the South, particularly Texas is often cited, and then it sort of gradually spread from there.
Huh.
So while it might feel new in some regions, it's actually become commonplace nationwide now. It's evolved quite a bit over the last century, of course.
So at its core, it sounds like a mutually beneficial arrangement. Landowners get something, hunters gain something. Is that the basic promise here?
Exactly. The core benefit is a truly symbiotic relationship, a win-win. Landowners gain a vital revenue stream from their property, which can be pretty significant.
Okay.
And hunters, they gain quality, private access to land that might otherwise be unavailable or, just overcrowded.
Makes sense.
And our source is clear on this. The future for hunting leases in America looks unequivocally bright.
We often think of land as simply, owned or public. But this rise of hunting leases reveals a fascinating shift in how land is being monetized and managed. And it seems driven by forces far beyond just basic income. So if this concept is spreading, what are the underlying currents driving landowners to embrace it, beyond just the obvious cash?
Well, yeah, it turns out some of the motivations are quite surprising.
Okay.
To start, there's just a growing awareness of the hunting lease concept itself.
Oh, okay.
While it's been common in the South for, nearly a century, it's still a relatively new idea in the Northeast, pretty novel in the Midwest, and even kind of fresh out West.
So people just didn't know about it in some places.
Sort of. What's crucial here is how digital platforms and, frankly, changing landowner demographics have rapidly accelerated this awareness. It's essentially democratizing access to the concept for many.
That's a really interesting point about democratizing the idea itself. Does that mean landowners in these previously unsaturated markets are finding new opportunities they just weren't aware of before?
Absolutely. They're perfectly poised to capitalize on a demand that was probably always there, just maybe not as visible or easy to tap into.
Right.
And even in established markets, you're providing supply where there's clearly high demand. Either way, it's an advantageous scenario for everyone involved.
I can imagine, though, historically, a big hesitation for landowners would be liability. The fear of someone getting hurt on their property. How's that being addressed now?
That's an astute observation. You're spot on. Perceived liability was indeed a significant historical barrier. Many landowners just didn't want to risk a lawsuit.
Yeah, understandably.
What's crucial now is how services like Basecamp Leasing directly tackle this.
So it's not just about offering liability coverage, but offering really good coverage. Their COO, Nathan Marak, highlighted they offer the best and biggest liability coverage in the industry.
Yeah.
Specifically $5 million.
Exactly.
How does that specific detail, say, the $5 million figure, how does that translate into a real change in mindset for a landowner who might have been hesitant before?
Well, according to Murnak, it offers the biggest piece for landowners, especially corporate or institutional ones he mentioned.
Okay, peace of mind.
Yeah, he noted there's no comparison to trying to insure it themselves. That kind of comprehensive coverage significantly lowers the perceived risk, making them far more comfortable opening their land to hunters.
Makes perfect sense. Okay, so we've talked about awareness and liability, but what about the actual people inheriting and owning this land? Are demographics changing too, and how does that affect things?
This raises another really fascinating dynamic. The surge in non-hunting landowners.
Oh.
As land changes hands, often to a younger generation, many of these new owners, they just don't hunt themselves.
Right, so they have this land, but maybe not the interest in using it for hunting personally.
Precisely. And this frees up significant ground for leasing.
That's a pretty profound thought, land passing to a generation that doesn't necessarily have that hunting tradition. What kind of scale are we talking about here? How much land is projected to change hands?
It's potentially huge. Remarinac projects that in the next 15 years, one-third to nearly 70% of farmland is expected to change hands.
Whoa, up to 70%.
Yeah, that's a massive amount of ground potentially opening up for leasing as new owners look for ways to, monetize their property without necessarily engaging in hunting themselves.
That truly signals a fundamental shift in our relationship with the land.
It really does.
Beyond ownership shifts, are there practical, sort of day-to-day reasons for landowners to consider leases? I'm thinking about the challenges of just managing large tracts of land.
Absolutely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it also addresses very practical issues like escalating crop depredation.
You mean damage to crops caused by wildlife? Deer, I assume.
Mostly do, yeah. As deer populations increase, and they have in many areas, so does the damage to agricultural yields. And that's a significant chunk of the American economy right there.
So it becomes a strong incentive for landowners to lease.
A very strong one.
That's a really practical driver. Does the article elaborate on how this approach, using hunters, contrasts with maybe other methods landowners might have tried?
Well, Murak mentioned that for some landowners, especially those with multiple properties, their main goals are to ensure crop damage is held to a minimum.
Okay.
He even said they specifically want hunters to shoot their two does while hunting for their buck to actively help manage populations effectively.
So hunters become part of the land management solution.
Exactly. They're not just recreating, they're providing a service in a way.
And it's not just crops, is it? I imagine high deer densities can impact the land itself, the overall ecosystem.
Exactly right. High deer densities also lead to increases in other kinds of property damage, impacting habitat, forest regeneration, other wildlife. Landowners are increasingly realizing the crucial role hunters play in, well, game management, keeping populations at a manageable level.
So it's about more than just saving the corn. It's about ecological balance.
Yeah, maintaining healthy ecosystems. For example, controlling deer numbers can prevent overbrowsing, which impacts forest regeneration and affects habitat for other species too. It's all connected.
Okay, and for landowners who are actively farming, this seems like it could be a vital additional income stream, especially given how volatile farming can be financially.
Precisely. Farming often experiences losses or very thin margins rather than consistent profits. So this additional revenue can genuinely help offset some of their costs of owning the farm and, boost the bottom line.
I can see that.
For a landowner who might have inherited a large tract, this offers significant financial breathing room they might not have had otherwise. It's almost like turning a dormant asset into a working one without much active effort on their part.
And in today's economic climate, thinking about rising interest rates, property taxes, that additional income must be even more crucial.
It absolutely is. With higher interest rates these days, it's harder for land value increases alone to justify purchases or holding onto land. Hunting leases offer alternative funds to lessen this financial burden.
So it's a direct financial benefit that helps them maintain ownership during challenging times.
Right. A practical way to make the land pay for itself, at least partially.
What's also interesting is the increased confidence in the land market itself. You hear about how many people have pulled out from other investments and moved it into land because, as Manack put it, land values skyrocketed.
Yeah, land has been seen as a very solid investment recently.
How does that robust land market play into the future of hunting leases? Does it make leasing more or less likely?
He sees this trend making leasing more necessary. He states it will become more of a necessity for hunters to lease in order to get out and hunt. That's the future.
Okay.
So as land becomes a more desirable and expensive asset, securing access through a lease becomes an increasingly practical, maybe even essential path for hunters.
That connects directly to the broader appeal of passive income, doesn't it?
For sure.
In an economy where, as the article says, belts are tightening, passive income from hunting leases just offers easy cash. I imagine that's particularly attractive to that next generation of landowners we mentioned.
It is. It allows them to derive income from the land and potentially, delay a capital gains tax bill if they were considering selling. It's about leveraging an asset in a way that minimizes active management while maximizing financial return. Smart.
Okay, so we've covered a lot on the landowner side: awareness, liability, demographics, crop damage, economics, passive income. Now let's shift gears a bit. What about the hunter's perspective? Historically, paying to hunt might have seemed, well, counterintuitive, or even unwelcome for some. Has that sentiment changed?
Yes, dramatically. While hunters maybe once grimaced at the thought of paying, many now accept it, often purely out of necessity.
Necessity. Because access is harder to find otherwise.
Exactly. Marinax summed it up perfectly. He said, hunters seek private access, a relationship with the landowner that I can continue to cultivate, and have a place to go and feel safe.
That makes perfect sense. It's not just about the act of hunting itself, but the whole experience.
Yeah.
The reliability, the safety, maybe even a sense of community or stewardship with that specific piece of land.
Right. And what's fascinating here is that beyond these individual reasons for both parties, leasing also offers broader benefits. Benefits for the entire hunting community and for wildlife conservation, too.
Okay, how so?
Well, controlled lease access can significantly aid in recruitment and retention of hunters.
Recruitment and retention, how does that work? Does it make it easier for new hunters to get involved or for seasoned hunters to stay in the game?
Precisely. Hunters who control their lease can bring guests along, friends, family, kids, effectively recruiting new hunters.
Ah, I see.
And it helps retain established hunters who might otherwise just stop hunting because they lack reliable, quality access. It keeps people engaged and introduces new generations to the sport.
And this also ties into enhanced wildlife management you mentioned. Can you elaborate on how hunters having control over a lease can actually improve wildlife resources?
Yeah, when hunters control the lease decisions like harvest decisions, habitat improvements, they can make significant improvements to wildlife resources on that property.
For instance,
This includes correcting deer densities if they're too high, improving the buck age structure, meaning letting younger bucks grow older, resulting in a healthier age distribution and balancing buck-to-deer ratios.
which ensures better breeding and overall herd health.
Exactly. Ultimately, this elevates the hunting quality not just on the lease, but potentially for the surrounding area too, and contributes to healthier wildlife populations overall. It's active management.
So it really boils down to having kind of ultimately control over the hunting experience and the potential for a truly high-quality hunt, maybe better than you could easily find elsewhere.
That's right. As Murnak concluded in the article, for hunters who want the absolute best experience and maybe want to grow a good deer, as he put it,
Yeah.
they increasingly realize they have to do that on private land. It's often the only way to completely dictate the hunting decisions made on a specific property with certainty and actively manage for those wildlife goals.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what does this all mean? We've seen how the increasing popularity of hunting leases is driven by this complex interplay of factors.
Yeah, a whole range. From elevated awareness and, importantly, those liability solutions for landowner.
Right, to the changing demographics of who owns the land and the simple yet powerful economic benefits, passive income, offsetting costs, managing crop damage effectively.
And then for hunters, it's increasingly about necessity, isn't it? Seeking safe, consistent private access and the ability to truly manage a property for quality hunting experiences that might be harder and harder to find on public lands.
So this deep dive really matters to you, our listeners, whether you happen to be a landowner, maybe looking for additional income streams,
Or you're a hunter seeking better, more reliable opportunities.
or maybe you're simply interested in understanding these evolving land use patterns, the economic pressures on rural properties, and importantly, the conservation efforts tied into all this.
It touches on a lot of different areas.
Definitely. So to leave you with something to maybe mull over,
Sure.
considering that projected significant change of land ownership in the coming decades, we talked about potentially up to 70% of farmland changing hands, and this increasing acceptance, even necessity, of paid access among hunters. How might this growing reliance on leased land influence the future of public land access for hunting,
That's a big question.
or even the broader relationship between private land ownership and wildlife conservation efforts across America? It's a question that will undoubtedly shape the landscape, quite literally, for generations to come.